Oh, sorry, I thought I'd done.
Hello everybody and welcome to Sonic Talk episode 540, recording today live on Wednesday the 11th of July, which also happens to be the day that the UK plays in its first World Cup semi-final for 28 years. You may have noticed that if you've actually ever ever watched football or lived in the UK in any way. But as I say, this isn't really a show that's had anything to do with football at all. This is music technology and podcast, which we go into stuff like synthesizers, production, live production, playing live, software, controllers, anything really to do with it. That's how it works. And you may have seen, I don't know, but we did... Oh gosh, we were having some tech problems, and Steve Elbow put in. He got sweaty during that. Other people's tech problems give me nearly much as mine, because for some reason Facebook streaming has started to become really irritatingly. What's the word I'm looking for? Inconsistent. But hopefully you're getting it now. So we've now got the opportunity to bring all our chats into the chat room, including Facebook, YouTube, and IRC. So I have a friend helping me, Maisie, who's studying media production. She might give me a ghostly hand wave there. There we go. She's going to be throwing up a few suggestions to go into the overlay. Or not. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, welcome everybody. Thanks very much for joining us. We are also going to be offering a prize, of course, of iZotope Vocal Synth 2, which you'll be able to get roughly halfway through the show. We broadcast this every Wednesday at 4 p.m, more or less. So do subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to get notified when we go live. Oh, right, I need to calm down because I'm still very flustered. I don't know what I did with my drink of water, but it seems to have gone. So I'm probably going to need it. Anyway, so let's introduce everybody. We'll start off with Mr. Marc Tinley, whose microphone, I believe, is switched off. It's on now. Marc Tinley, of course, Sonus Magus, where he looks like he might be in the stock room of his shop in Glastonbury, where he sells all sorts of musical curiosities and bits and pieces and made stuff and circuit bent stuff. How are you, Mark? You well? It's been a long time.
I'm all right. I've deliberately pointed the microphone at the stock shelf so that you can't see just how exciting my shop is. And then that will entice people to come in. Lots of people come in and say they listen to the Sonicstate podcast, actually, which I really enjoy when they come in here because... Well, I don't know why I enjoy it.
Well, they know who you are. They might know who you are and know what to expect.
Yeah, well, utter madness is generally the order of the day in here. But
so how is it?
I'm all right, actually.
What's hot in the at Sonus Magus? What's selling
hot at Sonus Magus? I've got some Wild Wind loots. They're quite good. Or maybe the chili and lemon hummus chips that I'm about. They're hot. And the shop is pretty hot, but I am on the shadowy side of the street, and the sea on the other side of the street is getting all the sun, so at least the guitars aren't melting. But
God, it must be a nightmare actually keeping the stuff in the window.
I've got a Roland RE 150 second from 1978, I believe. Oh, and
Sweet.
The guitar signed Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac in my window as well. That's exciting, isn't it?
That's got to be worth a few quid.
Weirdly exciting thing. Well, I don't know. It's a Washburn, I think, actually.
I don't think that would make much difference, to be honest.
Sorry?
Well, Mark, it's lovely to have you. We will also now move over to... I think that's Matthew Hodson, at Matthew Hodson, educator, producer, looking very authoritative there in front of that desk. Is that a real desk or have you just got a backdrop in? Where are you?
Yeah, it's not a painting. This is the SSL XL desk. Great 4-bus mix desk, actually, loaded with the 500 series EQs. Yeah, it's really good. This is one of our mix rooms, 5.1 mix room that we have here at the BIM Brighton College, which my students use. They're not around at the moment, so I've jumped in here to use it for this, which is kind of them Great.
That is great, and you've got decent bandwidth there. So is that a room that you use? I noticed you've got there's a couple of distressors over there, and is that some Manly stuff?
Yeah, the ELOP, which is this kind of crazy limiter kind of distressors. The overstayer saturator is pretty cool. There's Culture Vulture. Then we've got the Verimu over there, and EVQ, some of the warm audio as well.
There's some nice stuff.
Genelec monitoring.
The Culture Vulture's really tasty. We did Tosh did a review of that for our on UAD, and I mean, I didn't really know what it did, but obviously that's an emulation, not quite the same thing, but more or less, and it was really impressive what it can do in terms of saturation. It's like very finessed and controlled distortion and saturation, isn't it? Yeah,
but you can also take it into Mega World as well if you want to go for it.
You can go there too.
Feed it's 2 channels who taking one channel into another and building up. So you could have very mild distortion on one channel and on the other channel and feed one into the other for like a 2-stage gaining thing going on. That's quite nice.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have some quality hardware in the house. I've actually got look what I've got in the house. I've got the Moog Grandmother. Which lovely. I must admit, I think when it came out, I was a bit disparaging because I'm a bit over the whole Moog subtractive ladder filter, and it arrived the other day. Honestly, it's a thing of absolute beauty. It's got this. It's so beautifully made and feels really solid and just delightfully constructed. It's really actually quite an intriguing instrument. As long as you don't add any resonance to the sound, you get all of that lovely Moog oscillator. And the Moog oscillators on this are really, really good. And one thing that I will say, the LFO, you can control like an like a VCO. You just basically patch it directly in from the CV out, and it's tunable and scalable, and it's just basically another VCO as well. So just some nice touches of those mini Moog style wheels as well. I'll eat my words. I'm looking forward to reviewing it. It sounds absolutely lovely. Anyway, Gaz Williams is here too. Also, Gaz Waldo, bass player, producer, music technologist, and man about town. How are you?
I'm a bit jealous looking at the Grandmother. I really want one. I think it looks brilliant. So
have you
very excited to see your review.
Have you actually seen or touched one? It really is beautifully made. It feels very kind of solid and delightful. Yeah.
But so nothing emerged about the Moog One, did that? So that's still in. We're still in the dark about that, aren't we? Or the Moog One, I should say.
The Poly. Whatever it is,
because that was like just before Summer NAMM, wasn't it? So everyone, but we have heard no more. So maybe it was a hoax.
Well, that'd be interesting. I can't think they'd be likely to do that sort of thing. Anyway, well, what's been happening this week? As we know, did I mention the football? Yeah, I might have done. We're gonna have to close in good time because I want to go and watch, and I need to get a table because
it's my 8th anniversary on Sonic Talk. The first Sonic Talk I was ever on was during the World Cup 2010, which was a very different year for England. But
I think you know what I think you were on it. You came into the office, didn't you? And we were sat there.
I did,
and I'm pretty sure we were sat there and we were listening to the cheers coming through the windows.
We were, yeah.
God, that's a while back, isn't it? Well, congratulations! What an anniversary! What a lovely thought. Both of us looking very different all that time ago. I think, perhaps
probably me more than you though.
Sort of much the same, only thinner, but still no hair, and a slightly different pair of glasses. And Gaz, very much shorter hair. You had a bit of a sort of 80s look at you at the time, I seem to recall. I'm going to have to see if I can find that. I think so. We can look it up somewhere. What episode was it? Can you remember?
170-ish somewhere. I don't know. Somewhere.
I'm going to guess. Take a guess on that. Sonic Talk. No, oh God. The problem is, I've since discovered this because we now publish the podcast. Well, we published it all over the place, but I've been looking recently because I've been trying to encourage people to leave reviews on the MP3 sites, like Stitcher and iTunes and stuff, because we don't get a lot of reviews. So if you're out there and you fancy doing it, please go ahead. But there's another podcast called Sonic Talk, which is to do with Sonic the Hedgehog, which is I should have renamed that. I should have thought about it when we named the site. But I think Sonicstate probably predates Sonic the Hedgehog. It might do anyway. I digress. Let's get on to some music tech, shall we? What about this? That was Sonic Lab. That is the Modal Skulpt. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. This is our 1 minute teaser because this has just been published. This is the Modal Skulpt 4-voice poly from Modal. There's new camera there. That sounds quite nice. So Modal Skulpt, they came to visit us last week. I did mention this because they were due to come the day after the last podcast. So I obviously didn't have any experience of what it was or what was going to see. And it's now been announced. I think it's going to go live on Kickstarter on Friday, which is an interesting thing. So well, we'll start with impressions first of all, just purely because I know that Matt has a connection because I sort of, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Gaz. So
yeah,
sorry, I pressed the wrong button there.
That's all right. Very cool. Yeah, very interesting. I think they've definitely learnt from their mistakes with the craft because I was a bit underwhelmed by that, to be honest. Although I thought it sounded pretty good. I thought the lack of keyboard or the 5 notes that you could play was a bit iffy, and my big bugbear was no MIDI din, and so it's really great to see MIDI din on there. Just I know that seems like a fairly minor aspect of it, but I think it's super important. My jury's out a little bit on the sort of the weird layout of things all being zigzaggy. I don't know what it's like having not seen one and played with one for real, how well it reads, because it seems a bit strange, the kind of everything.
Yeah, the layout's a bit unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that actually makes sense once it's in front of you, but at the moment that's kind of my main concern, that it just looks a little bit confusing. However, it is quite interesting, isn't it, how this is absolutely a digital synthesizer. There's no analog in it at all, is there? There's no analog filters. I don't think. No, it's just a strict digital thing. So it's using what digital does best, which I guess is like an absolute plethora of oscillators.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming you can do kind of, can you do swarmy things with it? That's like quite a buzzy.
I may be a little bit. I mean, we might ask Matt about this in a sec, because he might have had a little bit more hands-on time than the rest of us, because I was only there. I only had it. I was here for the presentation. They brought it in and said, "Here it is," and that was kind of that. So
did you touch it though? Did you actually?
Yeah. I did.
How do the knobs? How does it feel in terms of the quality? Does it feel quite nice?
It actually feels all right. Yeah, and they're all rotary encoders. Everyone is a rotary encoder, and they all output MIDI CC, so that gives it another potential use as well. And you've got shift function.
That's cool.
So I think it's got 26 controls with shift, so you could use it to control other things and map things. So an extra purpose there. So that's kind of handy.
And is the price been announced yet then, or is that going to come in the Kickstarter?
I think that they'll announce. I suspect what's happening is they've got a price in mind, but because of the way that the currency markets are fluctuating, they're waiting until the last possible minute to dial it in and set that price. Because as you know, I mean, you could make a massive change in the components and that side of it. So I don't know, but they definitely said it's definitely under $300. How much under $300? I don't know. I mean, I heard figures. I've heard different figures quoted, but that's the one that they're prepared to. That's what they're letting out at the moment. So I don't know whether that's.
So I mean, straight away, I'm thinking about what its competitors are, and just to sort of kind of gauge where it's at. I mean, the Yamaha Reface CS, I suppose, is something. I'm trying to think of things which maybe more so than the boutique, because it's got the playable keyboard on there, or the kind of weird keyboard. And what is it? It's not capacitive. What is it? How does it work?
I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't say. It's just a touch keyboard. But what's interesting about it is it's got. If we go to the bring the picture of it up, and it might make more sense if I can. Oops, not that. there we go. There are LEDs above every key, which are actually used for their sort of value indicators. So they will show like mod depths and values for the different pots, which is actually quite, it's quite a nifty idea. But it was also, and there are also 8 mod slots, and that shows you which ones are used and you can mute them. How many you've got. You can mute them individually, but then it shows you which ones are assigned. So you've got a bit of flexibility there.
Mute the mods. Mute the mods destination. Yeah. Oh, that's Mute the mods. That's a good show title.
Yeah, I'm going to put that down. I'll put that down, guys.
Yes, I mean, but it does look cool. I mean, it's definitely got a really strong, distinctive look about it. Oh yeah, I was thinking about kind of competitors as well. The most obvious competitor, I guess, albeit analog though, is the IK Multimedia. What's that called again?
Uno.
The little synth. The Uno, yeah.
That's only more on
looks rather than functionality. So I don't know. It's got a distinctive look. It's got lots and lots of interesting ideas. I'm interested in it. Definitely.
I think the final price will probably delineate, just how big it goes. So we'll see. I'm going to come, Mark. I don't know whether are you into the idea of these kind of little? I mean, I could imagine if have one in your shop, you could stock quite a few of them without actually using up too much space. So it might make sense.
I wanted to stock the Modal Craft synth, but then they did an exclusive deal with Gear for Music, so I couldn't do that. But I would love to stock this. I want to know what the roundy bit's for on the bottom. Is that for batteries?
Batteries, yeah.
You put batteries
it'll take 8 AA's, yeah.
See, I love it. I think it looks brilliant. I don't mind that the layout's weird. And if I can chuck that in my bag and use it for making weird noise. Well, do you know what I like about it, actually? And I know I always harp on about the fact that synthesizer design should change and we need something new. And actually, they've done something really simple, which is probably on other things as well, but I'd not noticed it. And it's like that whole idea of the morphable waveforms and the morphable filter. So if you use the waveform in conjunction with the morphable filter, you can get through some big sonic changes and spaces by doing that. I've used the little craft synth, and I think they sound really good. And I like the sound of them. It's not bad. It's a lot kind of It's sort of 80s-ish, isn't it? It reminds me of synclavier kind of sounds, but also with a bit of analog to it as well. So I don't know, it just seems kind of simple to control and use. So it made lots of sense to me.
Can I cut in just a moment?
Yeah.
You said about chucking it in your bag, didn't you, Mark? Something that you could just take. It looked like there's a lid for it. Is that right?
Yeah,
is it like a lid to cover the knobs?
There is a lid for it, but I think the lid is something that's going to be a stretch goal. If they sell more than however many they sell, then the lid will come with it. And flip it on the top.
Okay.
But the prototype that we got comes with a lid. It looks like a kind of it looks quite classy.
How big is it? Is it as big as a shoe bottler?
It's probably about that sort of size, maybe a slightly shorter.
Oh, is that a Korg?
But with
right, okay.
It's maybe it's about so big, but that like that, something like that.
Right. I want one. There you go. I want one. That's my reaction to it.
That's a good reaction. So Matt,
more than anything else that I've seen, actually, especially if it's got rotary encoders.
Yeah, that's really handy. So Matt ended up being hooked up. They came and showed you it, right? Because you were interested in seeing it. So you've actually seen one and dare I say, had a play with one for longer than I have.
Yeah, I'm actually fortunate enough. I've got one in my studio, which they've left with me to, I'm just working on some music with it, actually. They've asked me to write a track for, I think, getting ready for this Kickstarter. So I've got the kind of beta version, which is in your video, I think. It's kind of see-through perspex on it, which I'm glad they've changed it to the darker color scheme because it makes it really difficult to read some of that font on there. But yeah, I've been having really good fun with it. I've had it for about 3 or 4 days now. Chuck it in your bag kind of thing. It is something different. There's a lot of people talking about the way it looks, but the way it sounds is they've just got that right. I think the raw oscillators. There's a really funky delay in there. It's really musical. You can play around with. The tuning of the oscillators to intervals is just great. I mean,
yeah. Well,
instantly,
I
you've
should
just got
explain.
some
There's
really
if you haven't
inspiring
seen
stuff
if you haven't seen the video on Sonic, there's the oscillators are basically there are two oscillators that each essentially have four oscillators, and you have a spread function which does that. So they start like bang on, so you get quite a loud waveform, and it's not synced; it's just a loud, beefy waveform. And then when you spread, they move into detune, and then they start to snap to intervals, which is the same as the Craft. I should just point that Ty Unwin is in the chat room, I believe. If it's a keyboard, it should have a keyboard, a proper keyboard, a full-size keyboard. I were right about that saddle door. I tell you what, though, it does have full-size MIDI in and out, so it's the sort of thing that you could sit on a keyboard, and that is actually quite handy. Oh, sorry, Matt.
So I could Velcro it to the front of a MIDI guitar then, couldn't I?
You could if you wish.
Just stick it on the front of a Casio MIDI guitar and I'd be absolutely sorted.
So, Matt, tell me a bit more, because you've had a chance to check it out in your own environment, so you know what the sound is like from, in reference to what you've got in your room. I mean, what were your impressions? It did sound beefy when we had it here, but I couldn't A/B it completely.
Yeah, those raw waveforms which you can morph between, they're great. They're just the low end on it is just really good. Listening to it in my room, I was really surprised actually what was coming out of this. When you then waz it into poly mode, it becomes a whole different beast in itself again then. And it sounds great. I should mention that the poly mode, it's 4 voices, and it'll steal from the previous voices. It's kind of round robins on those. But I've been genuinely really impressed.
Ah, okay. Well, we'll look forward to hearing.
I must admit, I have been plugging in an external MIDI keyboard and playing from that. I've been doing stuff with Porsche and stuff from Max for Live, sending Max for Live instruments, MIDI sequences that I use as well to come up with interesting things. But it adds an onboard sequencer as well of itself.
Yeah, that's true. And 4 lanes of automation. I'm just going to put
Hans. Yes,
Hayes Anderson says,
does it have? Can you do USB MIDI over USB on it as well?
Yeah.
And so, can you then, if you record it into Ableton, will it record all the knob movements and then play it back?
I would assume so, but I can't say for sure. That's probably a question I should have asked.
Yeah, I'll give that a go. Actually, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, well, it's
like the World of Rocket is like a cool little synth. I think it's quite undervalued, and you can do that, and that's something. It's so good. You can just play it in, tweak away, and then play it back, and all those tweaks are still there. And then anyway, sorry. So I think that would give it a really strong edge.
Interesting. I'm just trying to see. I'm looking on our social media wall, and it doesn't look like the Facebook comments are coming in, which is really annoying. But there you go. We do our best. We'll have to sort it out a bit later. Anyway, yes. So it's launching on Kickstarter, which in itself is an interesting idea. Yeah. I guess it makes a lot of sense. I mean, because a lot of people do that. Keith McMillan, a lot of other people, and I really hope it does well for them, because they've had a couple of cracks at trying to kind of bit more mass market, because obviously their bigger synths are much more esoteric and higher end and harder to come by, but more expensive because they're lots more discrete electronics. So this is the sort of thing that could work well. But the idea is, I think it's ready to go, goes to Kickstarter. They get much clearer idea of how many they're going to make, so they can fulfill it properly, get it out to all the people, and thereby, there's less messing around. And I think this is probably a method that's going to be happening a lot more, just because it's, when you're dealing with distributors and dealers as well, things get very complicated because everybody wants special treatment, exclusivity, all of that stuff. And I imagine it's an absolute nightmare to work with all of those parameters at the same time. So yeah, anyway, that's the Modal. You can check it out at modalelectronics.com/sculpt. I think once the Kickstarter goes live, that page will probably redirect you to the Kickstarter page, and you'll be able to. Oh, I did mention it's got sync in and out as well, so you could sync it to Volcas and such like. But anyway, that's enough of that. So yeah, do check that out. Okay then, I'd probably let's just have a brief interlude so we can regroup. This is iZotope's Vocal Synth 2, which has been out for a little while now. Great vocal processing. Biovox, which gives you kind of vowel modelling, vocal track modelling, harmonies, vocoder band EQs, vocoder band editing. carrier synth editing, modulation, talkbox. I mean, there's a whole load of modules in here. Completely redesigned GUI, new vocoder section, new modules, and new effects as well, which you can completely reorder. Well worth checking out. And obviously, we're running a competition for that at the moment. You can check it out at iZotope.com/vocal synth. And we have a competition winner from last week, which I will just read out. It's, again, another one of those great answers. You think, oh, that's a good one. So this is One of Many Pools. So the Twitter handle, One of Many Pools, at One of Many Pools. And they tweeted, I don't know if it's Paula, Pauline. I mean, could be anybody, really, couldn't it? It's too hot to come up with something witty, which it was last week and still is this week. And just put the tweet at hashtag. So vote One of Many Pools. If you get in touch, iZotope will be able to get you hooked up with a copy of Vocal Synth. And of course, we have another competition for this week. And the competition, we're looking for the hashtag modern vocals. That's one word, the hashtag modern vocals, and the hashtag vocal synth 2 to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag modern vocals and the hashtag vocal synth 2 to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. And once again, we thank them for provision of the competition prize and their support of the podcast in general. Very much appreciated. Let's go here next, because this is something right up your street, I reckon, Mark. This is called Oddball. I think it's called Oddball, or maybe it's called Oddballing. I'm not sure, but so it's a ball with sensors in it and an app, and you bounce the ball to create loops and change the instrument and create loops. And it's such a simple idea, because bouncing a ball can be so rhythmic. This is just obviously an initial video. I think they were supposed to be launched on Kickstarter. I don't think they have yet, but that's it. I mean, that's all there is. I mean, it's really simple, but I'm surprised no one's done it before. Mark, I'm guessing I could see, again, this is something that you could have maybe sort of robotically bouncing in the shop somewhere, just creating random rhythms.
It's a clever idea. It would be rubbish for me because I'm completely dyspraxic and I can't catch balls. So I fell foul of the cricket ball with the PE teacher when I was a kid. I seem to remember he threw it at me, expecting me to be able to catch it if he threw it at me really hard, and it just hit me. So, but I can see, I mean, maybe I can learn to be able to catch balls. I don't know. I can see that it could be interesting if you were able to catch balls and you were able to bounce balls in time with things. It could be quite cool. I want one with a microphone in it, and then I would get that, you know, the long dog toy throwing thing where you can like throw a ball a really long way. If that had a microphone in it and a windshield and you could throw it past really loud things, that could be interesting.
That'd be ultimate Doppler.
I have to it though, so maybe I'll buy one and maybe I'll learn not to be dyspraxic. Oh, and talking of football, the man that trains me for running is a guy called Rainbow Tony, and I go out running with him, and he trains me to run the Glastonbury 5K. And someone told me this morning, that he died last night, and then I saw him on the high street today. So he's not dead. So we're going to make an album now, The Resurrection of Rainbow Tony. But he's going to teach me to play football. So he teaches me how to do, and what did he call it? Marley Key style, whatever on earth that is. So if I learn how to do that, then I might be able to learn to bounce balls. Then it could be really cool, couldn't it? I could actually have one in my shop.
I think The Resurrection of Rainbow Tony is an awesome show title. I think I'm going to have The Resurrection of Rainbow Tony.
He would love that as well.
That is, I mean, just priceless. Rainbow Tony, yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. That's another one of the only from Glastonbury could we have an anecdote like that. That's awesome. All right, guys, this strikes me as something that you might kind of find pretty cool as well. I just because when you bounce a ball, one is automatically drawn to a natural rhythm, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
Or maybe.
Yeah. I mean, lots of questions. I mean, whether it's a toy or not, I mean, will it do Bluetooth over will it be Bluetooth MIDI, or will it only be locked into the app? If it's locked into the app, then I think it's just here today, gone tomorrow sort of novelty. If it does Bluetooth MIDI, then I think that gives it some sort of maybe some proper proper worth. And also, whether you could have multiple ones, certainly like to be able to juggle
Juggling.
strange things. Yeah, juggle rhythms.
Juggling.
That would work. I mean, you can imagine. No, but you can imagine
You're
somebody
worried
like,
about a
Shine
completely different set of things.
You could imagine. That
I'm worried about whether I can even catch the bloody thing, let alone juggle it, or if it's got MIDI or Bluetooth. It's like, can I just catch it? No, probably not. But wow, okay.
But
I mean,
whole paradigm.
You could imagine that being something that someone like Cirque du Soleil could use, couldn't you? I mean, that would be right up their street.
I always wanted to invent knee pads that you just strap around your knees for sort of purposes. It was something I was really thinking about a lot for. But I guess there's a similar thing here. There is, because the thing about music, music is really good, I think personally, is when the swing level is just right. It's just, and there is something about the physical nature that could maybe influence just that. Music, there's like a kind of, when it has that momentum, so if this does kind of help you get that sort of feel into something, I think that could be quite interesting. I mean, I was kind of wondering of it as just as a tap tempo device. I thought it might be quite a nice way of just setting. Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely interesting, but it's whether they make that Bluetooth MIDI, whether they can, whether it can interface with professional tools. I think that's going to be the interesting thing. As I say, if it's not, if it's just locked into the app, and then I think it's a bit.
We found
we'll have to see.
This is made for. Matthew Pay says via YouTube, I am juggling since more than 20 years now. I always dreamt of this. So, sounds like the perfect topic, the perfect one for you, Matthew. I don't know if you're in that chat room, but yeah. Oh, sorry, I was coming somewhere else. Matt.
Hello. Yeah, I wonder. It's an interesting one. I wonder if it's quantized or not. Or you can turn the quantize on and off. And it also, this sort of reminds me, I think I read once that Brian Eno, he used to have in his hallway, he used to have a piano leant against the wall, and he would throw ping pong balls at it against the open strings. I would like to I'd like to use this maybe with one of his apps, the Bloom app or something, instead of beats, just like really nice ambient pings and pongs as you throw it around the room. Could be quite nice way to sort of relax yourself in the evening.
Yeah, that could work. I'm just trying to say what it is, because they don't.
I want to know what
launched yet.
When you bounce a ball, when it actually lands on the ground, it does like a long bounce, and then it
so you get a cadence,
speeds up, doesn't it? Because it loses momentum, but gains the distance between the bounces gets shorter. So that kind of there's a delay unit, I think, which was on the KVR challenge a few years ago, which does a delay called bounce that speeds up. That could be really interesting if that was incorporated into music. So not just the swing, because I think swing is essential to make anything sounding human, but for it to throw different kind of textures of beats into things, but at the same time as other textures of beats. So instead of things being syncopated, things are falling apart, but in different kind of, it would generate something that we can't generate any other way, I suppose. Maybe a drumstick. Drumstick on a stick.
Well, if you want to program your Aphex Twin beats, this might be a way to go. Those very quick sort of trills. You've got something like that, because there's not really anything. There's a couple of plugins that can kind of do those kind of things. But
if you think about things the other way around, you've got the the polyend drum thing, which you can do it the other way around, turning those into actual impulses, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, I thought that was fun. They said it was launching on the 10th, and it doesn't look like it's launched yet. So if you want to find out more, if you go to oddballing.com, you can either sign up and find out and figure out when it comes. I think they're aiming to ship by Christmas, so it could be just the thing for your loved one who's involved in that music business.
Oh yeah,
you get enough,
because you used to have an orange at the bottom of a stocking. He's always just like at Christmas time, swing the stocking, and like I tell you, that would be wicked. Actually, at the bottom of a stocking, you could bounce it into walls. You wouldn't have to catch it then. You could just sort of just.
I was thinking if you got enough of them, you could have a game of pool with them. You know what that would sound like.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, well, with that
very
Digital Crickets via the YouTube chat says, does it come in multiple colours for my billiard table? Which is a really that's an interesting idea. Trick shot beat. Oh god, there's another title there, isn't it? I think nothing beats the resurrection of Rainbow Tony, though. That's the best show title we've had for months.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, let's move on. Well, here's another oscillator.
So let's go into the window in a little bit more depth.
WTF oscillator.
We have it set on a single mode here, so we have a single window that opens and
interesting
closes.
Concept.
We have a sine wave at the front and a sawtooth at the back.
Dual
So
window.
you can hear that you can morph there between the sine and the
Waveform,
saw,
like sort of
anywhere in
PWM
between.
on steroids.
We can do a dual window. So we have two windows that open and close, giving us a different set of harmonics and a different way of morphing between the two waveforms. One of the really nice features is you can invert the rear waveform. What this again lets you do is create even more harmonics, which sounds completely different to
This is the WTF oscillator, which is from Dove Audio, which is Paula Maddox, actually, who used to be the designer at Modal, in a bizarre twist, and she's just put that, or Dove Audio have just put that out on Kickstarter today, and they're all yesterday I think it went out, and they're already at 50%, which may even be more than that. But it's kind of an interesting, different approach on an oscillator. I know, Matt, you're a modular guy, even though you've got a studio behind you and you haven't got your modular on display this time. This sort of thing that you kind of see innovation in synthesis. I mean, this looks. I mean, I know Ty's used it, and he said it sounded absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was at the Brighton Modular Meet a couple of weeks ago when I was there, but I didn't get to have a play with it. But I know a few people who walked away with some early beta versions to have a play with, and in terms of innovation, I mean, this idea of the window and the two different waveforms. And then you've got actually, I think, two windows you can jump between and use. I think there's innovation there, and that's something that I'm not aware of out on the market. The sounds that are coming out of it just sound like really great sort of wave folding, sort of PWM stuff going going on there, heavy modulation kind of thing. So
I must admit,
really interesting, this one.
I saw this. I posted this, and I saw the headline on Synthopia, and James at Synthopia writes great headlines, and his was it's like PWM but on steroids, and I thought, I wish I'd thought of that one. I mean, that's why I quoted him there, but yeah, he absolutely got it. It's a nice one. Oh, guys, I mean, I know you haven't taken the leap, have you?
No, I did. Paula did show me this, though, sort of in its very early days. So I'm really excited for her and Dove Audio, because I think it's interesting. It does feel like this is in line with the times, doesn't it? Where there's a lot of interest in the, using digital, interesting ideas, and that visual, just that little window. I mean, we've seen it, or similar things like, obviously on the mini log, having a little oscillator, being able to see what's going on, but really makes sense in this case, really seeing the visual aspect of it. And as you manipulate it, you can really hear what you're seeing. It's a really useful indicator. I think it's really clever. It's going to be interesting to see what people do with it once you start patching it into bigger systems. And just what the modulation effects are going to be like, I just don't know how fast you're going to be able to modulate those changes before it starts glitching, or if it won't, or if indeed it won't glitch. I mean, so interesting, a really, really cool design, and I wish, I'm hoping it's going to be a successful Kickstarter launch, because it is their first product as well. So
yeah, well, it's 50% there. I must admit, I was hoping for something a little bit more design-wise. Certainly, the front panel in keeping with the WTF name. Sort of just something perhaps a little bit more Eric Barber, a little bit more what was it? What's the stuff that he does? The kind of that really the names of products that you can't even mention because they're so offensive, and with all the cartoons on them. What's the stuff that he does? It's made with valves from 1950s radio TVs and stuff. That kind of thing. I've forgotten what the name of his company is. Chat room Brain, you must be able to help me there. What's the name of it? Although it's going to be a bit of delay. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called. So yeah, it's
quite a size, isn't it?
It's what? It's quite big.
It's quite a big size. Yeah.
Well, it's going to come in Eurorack and MOTM format, I think, MU format.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which.
Yeah, it's always a biggie, isn't it? Thinking about size with your modular, sometimes it's one in, one out kind of thing, and it's a decent chunky size for an oscillator, but so are many of them out there that have got such complex sort of things going on within them. So, but yeah, it's size is an interesting one.
Detective John Kimball there says, yes, Metasonics. That's
Metasonics.
What I was looking for. Thank you very much. It wasn't the first, but it's the first one I could grab. I always remember when we used to go to NAMM, Eric's a very dry and straight guy. We'd go to NAMM and he'd sort of say, yes, here's a new range of products. And they were all really, really expletively named, and I'd be there and I'd go, how on earth am I going to publish this video? I mean, it's just the name of the thing is going to be offensive to a lot of people, and he used to do really well with those things actually, and probably still does. Anyway, that's another story, but yeah, if you want to check them out, Dove/audio is the place to go, and the Kickstarter, there's links to the Kickstarter to there, and it's I think the cheapest you can get it for is 325. There's a few available at that, then a 335. It goes up in various increments, but like I say, they were actually pretty much let me see if I can find the Kickstarter page. I should have brought this web page up, but this was a late topic that came in. Let me see if I can find where we are now, because when I last looked, it was more than 50% done in 2 days, which is pretty good. Not even 2 days, probably just 24 hours. So Kickstarter, let's see what they've got. See where they are now. Yeah, so they need 28 days to go, and they're well over halfway. So I'm pretty sure this is an all or nothing project. So 9th of August is when it runs out. So anyway, we'll
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Right. This was one. As it's generally, it is a slow in the summer, news-wise, even though we do have a couple of things that we obviously already covered. I wondered what the desert island synth scenario would be. So, maybe it doesn't have to be a synth, but I'd prefer if it was, just because it's in keeping with the whole theme of the show, as some sort of electronic music gizmo of some description. So, you know how the thing goes, there's a very famous BBC radio programme, which is Desert Island Discs, where they get various celebrities on to explain what 10 records they would take. I've sort of summarised this into just one synth. So you're on a desert island. Obviously, you get amplification and some method of being able to play it and electricity, but you can't use it to escape or build kind of power stations to run your water purification. You've only got a synth, and then you're the rest of the time you're there in your cave with your sort of just in a pair of shorts. That's it. So what's the synth that you would go for? I'm going to start with you, Mark. I don't know why. I just am.
That's because you left me out of the last topic.
Oh no, did I? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but you know that I have no opinion about Euro rack stuff, so it's okay.
That must have been a subconscious decision. I do beg your pardon.
No, it's fine. I didn't really have a comment on it, but I think okay. So I'm going. Where is the desert island? I've got power. I've got sound. I was thinking about this earlier on.
It's not going to blow up in the first tropical storm. Okay.
I think it's got to be a Prophet 5. I know that's possibly a bit boring, but actually, it makes most of my favorite noises from a synthesizer. So although I quite like TB303s and the acid house thing, or actually I like that a lot, and the Prophet 5 doesn't do that very well. It does everything else really well, and I think I think I'd get bored of 303 after about 6 or 7 years, and I'd probably want to hear something else. So the Prophet 5 is very programmable, but it kind of works in a different way to a lot of the Roland stuff. And the fact that I've got that cross modulation and I can make bell noises would be good. So I can make all of those eerie kind of film noises. So as the surf is like rolling in on the beach and the sun's going down, I can do doo doo doo.
You
And I
can
can
chill.
go, the moon is quiet, or whatever it is. Is that how?
Okay.
I can
don't
do
know.
my David Sylvian impersonations.
Oh, Ghosts,
which
yes,
I don't
of
do
course.
very well. Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. I got your reference.
And
in
it's
the end.
also on like Tom Tom Club, which is some of my favorite kind of synth sounds. And it's of that era, but it's all the sounds that I liked of that era, I think. So Japan, Duran Duran, Tom Tom Club, Talking Heads, obviously.
Which is
but
a lot of Bernie. Is it Bernie Worrell who did a lot of that playing? I think it was, wasn't it?
I don't. Well, Tina Wayne, was it Tina? No, she's the bass player, isn't she? I don't know who did the
Wally
bass, the
Badarou
keyboard.
did some of that stuff too. Big Profit.
Did he?
Exponential, yeah. Okay.
So, but then I'd have to really check out the most recent incarnation of it, because I know Dave Smith released the Prophet 6, didn't he? Or is it the
Prophet 6?
Or,
yeah. And the
or
Rev
if
2.
I really wanted, if I wanted to escape, I could have the Prophet 9 3/4, and I could run at it and dive through the filter and
You could
end
use
up
it as
back
an
in
actual.
London.
You use it as an actual. You could use it like
As a portal.
A raft, possibly.
my
yeah, to
God,
get
yeah.
off. It's so big.
You can surf
Prophet
on
10
I'm going to
you
go
could get
anyway.
out.
I'm going to say Prophet 5 for all those reasons. I
All
think.
right, that's fair enough. Okay, Matt, I'm coming to you next. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I think I know what it is, but I'm interested to know your reasoning behind this.
Oh, yeah, it's a bit obvious, but it's the first synth that I bought, so I'm emotionally attached to it, but it's one that I keep going back to time and time again. And it's one that you can go from nice, chilled Boards of Canada sort of lo-fi things to techno. It's got an onboard sequencer. Can you guess what it is yet, guys? Onboard sequencer, a great sounding filter. It's monophonic, so it's not poly.
Huh?
SH101.
Is it an SH101?
It
Yeah,
is,
well,
mate.
An
that
SH
was there at the same time.
Yes,
That's interesting.
SH101. It's got to be, I think. It's such a great sounding synth. It's so versatile. It's so easy to use. It just sounds great. That sequencer, I always come up with some really inspiring things that way. It's got CV gates, so
Yeah.
if anyone else on the island's got a modular, I can also plug it into that.
Just so happens like somebody washes up. That maybe
Yeah.
maybe what they were doing
Yes.
is that there's a shipment coming from Japan full of or China full of the latest synth models that just happens to wash up, and the people that turn up end up with all we've got. We haven't got
That'll
any
do.
food, but all we've got is loads of synths.
Yeah. As long as
That
it's got
synth
synths
is-
and delay pedals.
That synth is the one that synth is the one that's responsible for stopping me from playing the guitar and for getting me into music technology.
Yeah,
Because I
same
went
here.
to the pub. I went to the pub with this guy called Stuart. Went back to his house and he said, "Oh, you got to try this." And they all went in the living room and they were sitting there smoking cigarettes, of course. And I was just in this other room with this grey thing on top of the washing machine. And in the end, after about 4 hours, he said, "You better take it home." So I took it. He lent it to me for months, and that's
Wow.
that was
it.
key in
The turning
switching me from guitar and recording on cassettes and things to like, hey, synthesizers are the thing. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
All right, well, there we
I'll
go.
hook
So
up
we-
for Kenton
Mark's,
or something.
Mark's B choice. Okay,
Happy
guys.
days.
What about you?
Well, I think it's. I've been struggling with this one because I like making things. So having some sort of sequencer is one thing, but actually I've been leaning towards maybe something like the Electron Octatrack. I mean, the OP1 is another obvious one just because of the sort of self-contained nature of it, the fact you can make things on it. And then I kind of thought the Octatrack, if I had some means to sample into it, so I don't know if every allowed an Octatrack and a little preamp or something, so I could sample
Or it could
into
be
it.
preloaded with samples.
Yeah.
Or
might have
preloaded with samples. That would be pretty cool. But then, I started thinking that this could be quite a cool thing to take
Like cool
to
gadget.
have as a desert core gadget. Which, incidentally, just to make this topical, there's a new gadget out today for Gadget, and why that's interesting is it's actually a collaboration with Propeller Heads. It's a Dr. Octarex is now in Gadget, so that's interesting seeing propeller heads and Korg kind of working together there, so it's interesting that the gadget format's becoming like just with an iPad.
Yeah, but you can't use it for anything else. That's the thing.
Are you using a Connect thing, aren't you? Oh, you can't use it with anything else.
No,
Can you sync
in our sort of hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
Oh no, I meant in the real world. No, I was curious to know whether the gadget was worth getting actually, but
gadget's great. No, gadget's really good.
For me, not on a desert island.
Yeah. The Synth Strom Deluge is another one that could be
that is a good call.
A winner, actually.
That is a really
because it's got the synth in there and the sampler and the sequencer, and it's just kind of
really,
pretty.
Actually, and it would take ages to learn, so it would give you plenty of time. Time to figure out. Maybe the thing is, that's it. You need to find because from my point of view, I was thinking. It's got to have some effects in it because I can't, that's the fun part, and that was leading me towards a DeepMind bizarrely not because it's my favourite synth, but because it's got all of that modulation potential that I haven't really explored. But then I thought, or possibly a Nix, but then I also want a sequencer because then otherwise I'm just going to sit there and noodle and I'll get into whereas a Synth Strom Deluge that might be a late contender for me because I don't know how it works. What I've seen looks really interesting, and it would keep you busy for a long time. But then I suppose you may as well just go for a synclavier.
But what if you eventually work out how to use it and then you decide you don't like it?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of times because that could, then whichever choice you made, after a certain amount of time, you'd be living with that choice forever. So you might come to hate that instrument because of what it, there's a lot of deep psychological kind of potential for things going wrong if you've only got one instrument. But yeah, that's a good point.
But I suppose one of the things, though, the joy of playing, a really nice key bed, something that's really nice to play. Versus something that's more cerebral and sequency. So it's a very difficult question because there was one side of me was kind of thinking about like some big old stinking workstation thing, just that's like a kind of FA8 or 08 or something, or I can't remember what it's called, something like that, which is not particularly sexy, but it's got such a those things are just so loaded up with stuff, aren't they? You never ever get round to doing anything with it. So difficult. Yeah, but they feel nice, and just to sort of just chill out and play some Fender Rhodesy kind of stuff. Oh, or maybe just a Fender Rhodes, thinking about it.
Oh, there's a thought.
Yeah.
A good old
Fender Rhodes and a looper pedal. Can I have a looper pedal as well?
No.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's possible. That's bending the rules ever so slightly.
I'm going to go with the Deluge. Yeah, why not?
Oh, well, you talked me into it after you said you were going to have something else. So I can't have that anymore. So I'll have to have something else now.
Oh, no, all right.
I guess, well, you could just say, or the other thing that you could say is a sequence, a really nice self-contained modular voice which has a sequencer built into it. That would do, and an effect.
Can we not have a 12U rack with modules full of Euro rack modules of our choice? Would that be all right? Because it's a case.
Well, I don't know because discrete. I don't know. This is getting far too complicated. I wasn't expecting this pushback.
I might have to go with the guitar-based one actually, because I can't play the keyboard, so I might have to have a guitar-based thing. So, what's the best guitar-based synthesizer? Is there one now? I might have to go for a Casio PG380 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there another guitar with that's actually got the synth built into the guitar?
Not that I can
think of. At the moment.
No, I can't think
of
that.
Those little Yamaha AG, whatever it is, the little
AG10.
funny thing with buttons
I know that.
on it. That might be quite good fun.
I've got one of those.
They're quite cute, aren't they?
But you'd get bored after about 4 weeks, wouldn't you? And if you were there for 10 years, you'd be like, oh God, not that thing. So,
well, there's
I'm
I
have
suppose
to invent something now.
Yeah, that's the other spare parts and things. You have to assume that if it goes wrong, it will automatically fix itself, so you can still use it forever. This is getting far too hypothetical. Anyway, okay, let's see what else we've got. How about? Did you see this? The Ableton. This is a bit of an old video now. It's been sitting there. Creative extensions from Ableton. New devices that work in Max for Live. I think they are that create. for you to be a bit more creative with devices in Ableton Live. They're free. Bass synth, let's see what we've got. We've got bass, synth, melodic steps, polysynth voice, pitch hack, gated delay, color limiter, re-enveloper, spectral blur, just more free stuff. This is benefiting from the new tighter integration with Max for Live, I believe, if that's correct. So you can. They're much more efficient, so you're able to use it. And Mark, you actually said, "Oh, great! I downloaded these, been using them." So you've got some experience.
I've been playing with it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there which is kind of like. Sometimes these things annoy me. Actually, everything annoys me, doesn't it? Because I'm a 55-year-old grumpy old man. But what annoys me about it is it makes it very easy for other people to make the kind of sounds that I make in a very, very, very complicated way. And now they get to just click on one thing and it just does it really brilliantly. So some of the sounds in there are, well, actually, most of the sounds that I've got that I've loaded up out of the Creative Essentials so far have been things or done things that I really like. So I really like all the compression stuff. It sounds very different to the other Ableton compression stuff as well, because the Ableton compressors always smack in a really kind of weird way for me. And these sound a lot more kind of organic and a bit more like an 1176 or something. And there's a really good reverb in there that reminds me of the Valhalla shimmer kind of thing, but you've got kind of more control over it because you can either map your ASCII keys on your keyboard to different things and just punch things in and out, or knock things in and out, or use the push to do it. And then the other thing I like is that pitch thing is really cool because it's like an H3000 kind of, the early grey fronted H3000, which had all of those weird pitch kind of things. It does a lot of those kind of things, but it's a lot easier to use, I have to say. So I'm liking all of it and feeling marginalized with my expertise at being able to chain things together and make weird noises. It's like, oh, now anyone can do it. So I don't know.
Well, I suppose that's
do, and I look forward to hearing their music.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point about that. I mean, isn't it? Things. If a certain workflow becomes normalized and then somebody makes an easy way to do it. I mean, there was that whole thing with glitch thing because for a while it was sort of BT and Aphex Twin with the people who could sit there and forensically cut stuff up and make it. And then people made plugins that just reorder sample buffers, and you kind of end up with it all just happening mechanically. And I remember,
with time stretching and pitch shifting and making pieces of music work together, that used to be really difficult to do, and now it's just like you drag. I got some DJ software and you just kind of click on the software and it just does everything for you. And I'm like, wow, okay, that used to take bloody hours to do that sort of stuff. And it's just all, I mean, obviously they've modeled the kind of people that do it to work out how they do it and then made it so that it's a function of the software, which is brilliant, I think.
Oh yeah, just had another little social winner, oddballism. We talked about the oddball bouncing ball. They heard you guys mention us. Thank you so much. That's always nice to see that we've actually got some listeners that far reaching. Well, we know I take it back. There's a lot of you out there, and we appreciate you. But it's when you get those happy accidents, it's always quite nice to see that.
The ball is MIDI. The ball is MIDI. The ball is MIDI. They said oddballism. Yeah, okay. Winner. I'm interested now. Colour me interested.
Yeah, I think I am now.
All right, I've got that. I've got the line. The ball is MIDI. I think it's there somewhere. Okay. Anyway, sorry. So,
yes.
Where were we?
One part of the creative extensions is a little MIDI controller thing called Melodic Steps, and that is fantastic. I mean, that's worth it just on its own. I mean, well, it's all free, so everything's worth it. But I mean, that to download it is so good. What's really nice about that is, you can dial in a scale, and then there's like little randomizers that you can click on to get interesting sort of random patterns coming up, which has got various things. You can have it randomizing the octave, transpose, length, velocity, and then actually you can then randomize the amount of chance as well. And if you put this on a bunch of tracks, dial in the same scale, just get it playing lots of things, and then just go around just randomizing the settings and just moving through the way that you can adjust it, it comes up with some absolutely beautiful stuff. I was really I was astounded by it, really.
Is it monophonic or is it poly?
I think I've only been doing mono stuff with it. I'd have to look into that, because I've been doing it with a bunch of mono synths, and I've just been making like beautiful things on it. And you can, the way it is, when you it's very easy to edit. So if you randomize something and then don't like it, it's very easy just to kind of adjust. And it's got a great interface. And yeah, I meant to, when I downloaded it, I meant to work my way through everything else, but I got distracted with this. It's so good. I really like it. So that, and I'd love to have that as a little physical little MIDI processor. So someone should make one. Cool. I think.
Matt, do you teach Ableton? So are you an ACT kind of guy, right? So you're a certified trainer as well, right?
Not certified trainer, no, but we do use it a lot on the course. It's my go-to now at the moment in the studio as well as Logic. I suppose what I really love what Ableton are doing with the Mac stuff, and I think I saw this in your chat room as well, is that it's really opening up and allowing Macs for Live stuff to be accessible to lots of new people who wouldn't usually do it. I stumbled across Max MSP many years ago, and I was kind of like, what is this? And it took me ages to kind of get my head around it a little bit. But now, by releasing these kind of things, I think Ableton are really opening it up to people, and getting them into this world straight away. And they can then, it sparks inspiration, ideas, and what is this Mac stuff? And then you've only got to go to maxforlife.com, and there's so much you can download and get hold of these days. Some really, really inspiring tools out there to use now. And most of it I had to use to make when I was at university.
Well, it's usually it's usually a module, isn't it? In the music technology course, there's a Max for Live module or a Max MSP module, which I guess it's now probably Max for Live. It's interesting. I wonder if we're getting to the situation in the way that Native Instruments from Reactor now is used as a sort of fertile ground to build official instruments that get released as things, whereas that's what Ableton are trying to do. So they're trying to create this ecosystem where it's a like Reactor but for a DAW rather than instrumentation sort of stuff. That would make sense, I suppose. I suppose so. I just think it's a fantastic time at the moment for all of this. And what's also great as well is my students have been building things in Reactor and Max MSP, and then they share it out to the world, and then suddenly someone emails them back and says, "Oh, I've changed this and adapted it, and now it does something else as well." So
that's the cool thing. I used to use everything in Logic and go in the environment and program things where I'd program all sorts of chains of different things in Logic. And when I switched to Ableton, I found that there's some things that I couldn't do in Ableton that I used to be able to do in Logic really easily. And if you go to maxforlive.com, if you're thinking about a way of connecting something to something else and then interfacing it and then making it programmable or assigning a knob to it or whatever, it's all done. It's already out there. It's like people have programmed pretty much anything you can think of doing, and most of it can be downloaded for free. Including editors. I think I got a CZ1 the other day, and I'm sure I got an editor for a CZ1 from somewhere, which was a Max patch.
Well, that's interesting. But I love the way that maxforlive.com is unashamedly 1990 website design.
It's fantastic.
It's just just the facts. Let's just have the facts.
You can only
there they are.
You can only view like 5 items at a time, and then you go to the next page, and you just
Yeah,
gotta
want.
It's so 95.
I'm disappointed there's no Comic Sans in there as well. That would have really completely. Anyway, we've got time has flown, and we seem to be at the point of that it's time perhaps to shut it all down, because like I said, I've got to get out of Dodge, go and find a space where I can see a screen where there will be lots of people screaming, and hopefully good luck to all of the people playing football tonight. Obviously I want England to win. It would be astonishing. Imagine England get to a World Cup final. It'll be the first time since 1966, which would just be bonkers. But yes, anyway, I won't go on about it. It's been great fun. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Mark, thank you for joining us from Glastonbury, Sonus Magus, where are you on the high street still, or are you just off?
I am bang on the high street, opposite the chemist. Opposite the Boots the chemist.
So do you find that footfall has increased? Has that change of position really changed the fortunes of the visitors and whatnot?
A little bit. I think I need to move to the bottom of the high street, because what happens is the majority of footfall comes in the bottom of the town near the Abbey, because they're coming for the Abbey maybe, and then they kind of filter up the town. And then when they meet all the drug addicts on the benches outside the church, they kind of take fear and go back down. So they don't always get past the drug addicts. So it's only the people that start at the top, or the brave, who make it past those people. And then, of course, all the drug addicts go in the chemist opposite to get their methadone and everything else. So, and
you
many
paint
of them are really nice.
A picture of pastoral
I'm not
bliss.
trying to paint a bad picture of those people, actually. Most of them are really nice people, but some of them look a bit scary. So for your average Christian who's come to
brass rubbing,
brass rubbing. I say, I'm going to take a rubbing of that bell. And, oh my goodness, that man looks like he's going foaming at the mouth. I can't walk past him. He might mug me and steal my telephone. So, I think I'm going to move to the bottom of the high street sooner or later. I've got plans to move to a slightly bigger shop a bit further down. So. And then I'll get all the Americans coming in going, have you got something I can take back to my child in Ohio?
Yeah, okay.
Whatever. So, and I'll be able to sell them things like Sixth Sense cards. Look at those. Look.
Wow. What are they? You're going to have to tell us what they are now. You've shown us.
Oh, am I? Oh, right. Okay. I've got a sign on my door that says, please don't come in because I'm doing a podcast. And if you need something really urgently, I could serve you. And actually, I've had a realization. If I just put a sign on the door saying I'm doing a reading, nobody would come banging on. I've had a few people trying to come in, but if people in Glastonbury put signs on the door saying I'm doing a reading,
I'm doing a gong bath,
they never do, because they think, oh no, better not interrupt that. And anyway, these cards came from a writer's toolkit, but because they say Sixth Sense cards on them, I've been showing them to various people and saying pick a card. And then they pick a card and it says something like an old letter from Amsterdam, or this one's got the taste of chicken. And they're like, hey? And then I go, well, what does that mean to you? And they go, because human beings love to make meanings out of things, don't they? So
it's a series of random unconnected phrases that could inspire people.
These are nothing to do with like fortune telling, which throws everybody in Glastonbury. Because here's one. Look, a lime green deck chair. It's like, what's that? What does it mean? Well, what does it mean to you? Have you ever seen a lime green deck chair?
It's that classic, the classic answer with a question.
And then you go, well, I don't know. It may come to you later, the meaning of it.
I think you're wasted in the shop. You should be some kind. Yeah. Anyway, Mark Tinley, thank you very much. Sonusmagus.com. Thank you for joining us. Pleasure to have you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And also, Mr. Matthew Hodson, at Matthew Hodson. You can find him on YouTube, Facebook, all of those places. Thank you for joining us again. It's been a pleasure. And we look forward to hearing your music on the Skulpt. I think that'll be an interesting.
Yeah, I've got to get that finished off. Hopefully in the next couple of days for them. So yeah, it's sounding nice. I'm quite happy with what's coming out of it.
Right.
When you finish with that thing, can you post it to me?
I don't think it works that way, Mark.
tell them to send it to the shop. I'll have it, and I'll put it on a plinth in the middle of the shop where people can come and play with it.
All right. Well,
I should actually just something I've remembered is that there is going to be a software editor for it as well. For those of you who don't like the interface, you can change it over USB, which would be cool. And I must admit, because I'm working on my first EP for Fat Cat Records, and I think I'm going to be using this synth definitely on that. I'm really getting along with it. I think it's a cool little synth. Check it out.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. And also, Mr. Gaz Williams, thank you for joining us. Pleasure as ever. Will you be watching football?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
this is where being Welsh is quite handy, actually, because I can I live in England, so I can be a fair weather fan, really. I can sort of support them, and then if they lose, just go, oh well, and then, not be too heartbroken. But yeah, it's exciting. I am quite excited, actually, and I think it's going to be, this whole World Cup's been actually brilliant. I think it's been the best one that I've ever witnessed, sort of from a watching point of view.
On a number of levels, I would agree. Anyway, Gaz, thank you very much for joining us. And also, oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Well, we've got a review coming soon, haven't we? That'll be
the
hopefully.
Steinberg URRT will be.
Yeah, I call it
the ERT.
I call it the ERT. Yeah, ERT. URRT is such a mouthful. So call it the ERT. Yeah.
Well, actually, we also we just posted today a look at the Audient ID44, which is also a nice sounding interface.
Yeah,
well worth
competitor, similar price. Yeah.
And okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. Don't forget if you want to join and enter the competition for iZotope Vocal Synth 2, we're looking for the hashtag Modern Vocals and the hashtag Vocal Synth 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. So that's it for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll do the customary wave goodbye as we sail off into the soccer sunset. That's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.